no doubt about it. So, those who believe in system is one kind, those who believe in authoritarian rule is another. In India, there is now a real war between system builders and people who believe in authority. Or you think that if you have system plus authority, the country will run very well. Very well, yes. But the three hungers I spoke of will not be fulfilled. We would be better human beings. Because I use another word. I want that word to become more popular. You are the word sukha for sukhi rajya, welfare state, happiness. I am a little critical of that word. If there is sukha, there is also dukkha. There is also disappointment. There is something else which is called nemmadi, which is neither sukha nor dukkha, but being at peace with oneself. I think a government should aim at nemmadi, not either sukha or dukkha. Now, if you come to dukkha, I will just read a poem, and that is my last point. A man, a new ager, somebody who thought the way I have been now talking about, because the new agers are sometimes very naive people. Unless you are naive, you won't get a new idea. Very intelligent people who are full of opinion will not get a new idea at all. In order to get a new idea, sometimes you have to become naive. I know nothing. I am empty. I have let God come to me and speak to me. That's what Blake did. He would have a new idea. Lawrence would have a new idea. Yeats would have a new idea. Gandhi would have a new idea. Otherwise, how would you have thought by lifting up a little salt, he can make the whole British Empire tremble? I have a friend who tells me, when did India become free? On the day Gandhi went there, took a handful of salt and held it up like that. British Empire was gone with a handful of salt. Nehru could not think of it. It was Gandhi. And Gandhi was naive. A naivete of Gandhi defeated all the intelligence of the British. How many people could they put in the prison? It was as if there was no British government at all, because there were lawbreakers everywhere. They were lawbreakers, but not violent people. It was brilliant. So naivete is the basis of sometimes new thoughts, silence, prayer, meditation, allowing great things to come into you. Blake used to listen to angels and write the poems. That's what he said. Somebody dictates these poems to me. But Blake was also a poet. He corrected what the angels dictated. So I don't fully believe. So he had to correct them. Anyhow, he was a new ager, naive. He was so naive and truthful. He believed that we should be naked. And so he was prepared to be naked. And he told his wife, you also be naked. She agreed. But when he wanted the servant woman also to be naked, she said no. He had problems with his wife, because she could not go that far. But Blake was like that. They thought that he was a madman. But if you take the British history and look at that period when they were industrializing, the greatest mind they produced was William Blake. Because he was a very deep critic of industrialization. Now here is a poem I will read you. What Blake wrote on London. What was London like? I wander through each chartered street. Look at the word chartered. chartered because the government has put a seal on each street. Because it's being governed, chartered. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow. Even the Thames water, the river, is also chartered. And mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. Everyone is sick. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every band, the mind-forged manacles I hear. It's a great phrase. Mind-forged manacles. Manacles are kaibedi, but they are forged here, in the mind. Mind-forged manacles I hear. Where do they come from? From politics? From economics? From university disciplines? Manacles begin to forge your mind because you have read these things and so you can't change. The mind-forged manacles I hear. This is a great line. The chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls. In those days, the chimney sweepers were necessary because you used coal for your energy and the whole, the soot would fill it. And a young boy who is not old, who is thin, had to get down the chimney and clean the soot. And so these chimney sweepers would be black, always black. They would wash once a week. And when they walk the street, like our vegetable vendors, when they walk the street, they call Sautakai, etc. They would call sweep, sweep. But sweep is a difficult word for them to speak. Weep, weep, they would say. And Blake has registered it. Chimney sweepers cry, weep, little boys. To sustain your energy requirement and your new industrialization. How the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls. All the church buildings have a black layer on their body because of the soot. And pall is also a cloth which is put on a dead body. Churches are dead, and there is a black cloth on them. Look at Blake's mind. How religion has failed, how church has failed during industrialization. Was industrialization necessary? Yes, necessary. I'm not saying it was unnecessary. But did it produce woe, hardship, dukkha? Yes, it did. And when we tell the history of development, we try to forget it, sweep it away, and not talk about it. Does the Indian development now harm people? Yes. People who come from the hills, the tribal people, they lose their homes, they lose their land, they lose their ways of living, and they have to come and stand before your house with a staff in hand and a uniform and get 2,000 to 3,000 rupees a month. They are losing their way of life. For what? Development. And then if you ask a development economist, this is inevitable. How else can the country grow? But what happens to people? Blake is asking that question, and I want a room for that kind of a question in those of you who believe in development. Otherwise it becomes inhuman. Every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. The helpless soldier's sigh, because he is the one who sacrifices. There is a red line on the palace walls. But the last stanza is very important. But most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlots curse the prostitute, blast the newborn infant's tear, because the sexual disease began to appear then. Children were born blind. Syphilis, harlot, in the midnight, and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. The marriage hearse, which is so sacred, is plagued by this. And this he wrote at the time of 1794, at the height of industrial revolution. Not that he stopped anything, but I have always a feeling, even if you can't stop certain evils, a very deep feeling within you, which comes from music, from poetry, from great sources, will help us being human for a longer time. And maybe the cruelty will be a little less if we intervene.